use case. Now, what I would like to do is show you how to build this. So, the main goal here is to show you that this isn't something that requires a lot of knowledge to do, or like coding, or um, you don't need a development team. You can do this by yourself pretty quickly, also, right? So let's go to Workato, and I'll attempt to build this from scratch. So you guys can see both the parts, right? So bear with the interfaces. So I have Chrome and Teams open at the same time. So before I jump into the recipes, right, I want to quickly explain to you what explain to you certain concepts, right? So first, I want to show you how to build something like this, which is the ability to list all opportunities from Salesforce. And um, there's a key concept here that I wanted to explain, which is how bot recipes work. So whenever I send a command to Workbot, what happens in the background is Workato actually runs a bot recipe in Workato, right? So I'll show you how to build the very first recipe to post this, and then a button from the first message over here actually chains into the second recipe, um, where you actually see this selection process. So I'll show you exactly what I mean, but basically the first recipe, you define a button. When you click the button, it chains into the second recipe and then runs that recipe and displays what second recipe shows you. So I'll go through and build it out in front of you to show you what I mean. Okay, so let's get started with the first recipe. So the goal here is to build something like this, right? View all opportunities. So I'm an expert, and let's get cracking. So here, what I'll do is I will start off with Microsoft Teams as the trigger. So I'll quickly connect my account. So here, I'll give this command a name. So commands are a way for you to give bots instructions to run specific recipes. So in this case, I'll call this command view all ops, right? And this is the command that will be invoked to show this recipe. Okay, so next, I'll give a command hint over here. So what this command hint is actually because when you type help, right, in Teams to the bot, you actually get a list of commands that you're able to run. So you don't want to show a command with underscores like this, right? So here you can actually give a customized command. So I can show this to be view opportunities demo, for example. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna skip parameters right now and go straight to the action. So once again, here we are fetching information from Salesforce, right? So the first thing I want to do is actually fetch this information from Salesforce. And this is opportunities. So I will search records opportunity, connect my Salesforce account, and searching for opportunities. So here, depending on your Salesforce workspace, I think most organizations would have tons of fields, right? So you want to choose the fields that you want to use. Like off the top of my head, I know that I want the opportunity name, the expected amount, the close date, the opportunity ID, stuff like that. So the stage, the probability. So I'm going to use these things, right? So I'll choose opportunity ID, name, description, stage, probability, and expected amount, right? Yep. Okay, so and I only want I want this action, I want Workbot to only fetch me opportunities that are open. So I will enable an optional field closed, and I'll set this to no. So now what I'm doing is searching for opportunities that are not closed, right? So hence open opportunities. Okay. And now if you can see over here, this is my name, right? And I'll show you why that's important later. So I'll go straight into Workbot for Microsoft Teams. So here, now I'm now designing the message that you see over here. So I'm going to go into post reply. I'll skip envelope text, not interested in that. And I'll focus on defining the message container. So over here, I'm going to just try to follow as close as possible. Opportunities. And that's my heading. My subheading. So once again, I am using Markdown here because Teams supports Markdown. So over here, right, I want to use the opportunity owner ID. I don't want to hard code my name as much as possible. In fact, any field, I rather not hard code it. So I will search for the owner over here, right? Oops, I guess I have to search for owner here. So I'll search for owner ID over here. Okay, so now owner should be in the search opportunities output, right? Owner. So what do you find here is that this is an ID, and obviously this isn't showing an ID, right? This is my name, not my Salesforce ID, owner ID. Who cares about that? So what happens here is you need to actually add an intermediate action to actually fetch information about the user. So I'm going to search for a record. I'm sorry, I'll get a single record detail, right? So get record detail. So here I can choose the user object and then fetch more information about myself using the owner ID. So this is the owner ID, object ID that I use over here, right? So this should return information about myself so that in this step, I can then use my full name. There we go, full name. And voila. So now we can see instead of the owner ID, I'm actually displaying my name instead. So and in this way, right, whoever invokes the command in Workbot will have their name displayed rather than, a hard-coded name. That wouldn't work, right? Okay, so moving on. Link text. So here is what I'm trying to do. So this actually opens all open opportunities in Salesforce, right? And this is done using Markdown. So I'm just going to cheat here and copy the link. So here I will write view in Salesforce, provide the link. There we go. And if you don't want to cheat, you can actually just go into Salesforce and define the view that you want with the corresponding filters, and then grab the link from the URL. Oops, I lost my way. There we go here. So you can paste it over here. Okay. And for thumbnail, this thumbnail here, what I usually do is I'll just search for a Salesforce logo and find the first one. So here I just quickly choose maybe this one here, and I'll grab the image address and paste it in here. So that should settle that. Okay, so I'm going to quickly run through the body. So here you have 15 open opportunities. So obviously this number comes from Salesforce. And once again here, I want to grab the list size of this action. So if you look over here, right, this action returns an array of opportunities. But what I'm interested in over here is the list size. How many opportunities were returned? And that's what I'll do here, which is list size. There we go. And I put the asterisks here, of course, because of Markdown, I bold it. And then I'll go into a fact set. So a fact set is a way to display a series of name value pairs in a 2-column layout like this. And by default, it is in static mode, so you can keep adding facts one by one. But obviously, I don't want to do that because I'm getting the information directly from Salesforce, and this is dynamic. So I will go into the ellipses menu here to change the input mode into dynamic list. And what happens here is I can then pass an array or a list, in this case, opportunities, and then map the corresponding fields. So here I want to show the, for title, I want to show the opportunity name, right? So I will search for name over here. And these example values actually really help. So that's name. And now for value, I want to add a bunch of stuff. So this is the expected amount followed by the close by date, right? So here, if I search for expected amount, I get a number. But if I just add the expected amount, I don't get the dollar sign and the comma placements, right? Instead, I just get the number. So what I'll do is actually change to formula mode and convert this to currency with precision 0. And this precision 0 actually allows me to remove the decimal points. But there's more, right? There's actually the close date. And let's look at the close date and how it looks like.
Hey, John, on this one, like here, like you chose two currency and by default it's US dollar, but you could customize it to any currency symbol, right?
That's right. So here I'm defaulting it to the dollar sign. So, but if you want, you can change the unit. Um, and you can add multiple parameters over here to change it the way you want it to. So here I'm just merely changing it, defaulting it to dollar sign and making the precision to 0 to remove the decimal points. Okay, so now I want to look at the close date. Oh, where is the close date? Okay, so let's do a schema refresh maybe. I know what's happening. It's here. So I need to add the close date over here. So, it's fairly typical for you to build a recipe to just maneuver up and down. So don't be afraid to, explore, basically. It comes with practice. So in this case over here, I'm trying to look for the close date. There we go. And if you look at the close date, it's very different, right, from the format that you see over here. So what I will do is I am gonna add some stuff. So here I'm gonna add the space and open parentheses followed by the close date. And now I want to change the format of the date. I do this by using the string format time. And here I will use the I prefer this format, which is the month, the day, and the year. Coolsies.
And John, you're a pretty sophisticated user. You remember all these parameters, but for folks, you don't have to remember it. It's easily accessible right below, so you can just copy paste that formula.
Exactly. But once you get more and more familiar, you can, change it the way you want, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here, not to forget to close the parentheses. Cool. So that should settle the value of the date. And lastly, I will set a bunch of buttons. So for simplicity's sake, I'll just keep it to just view opportunity. So here I will add the prompt text for buttons. So what would you do next? And then I will add a button, view opportunity. Okay, so now we've come to the point where, like it's time for me to define this button, right? And if you recall, this button actually invokes the second recipe, the downstream recipe. So I'll quickly flip to the slides here to show you what I mean. So remember that this recipe is the one I'm building right now, right? The first one. So the button actually changed into the second recipe. The problem right now is that the second recipe doesn't exist yet. And we'll solve that problem by creating the second recipe now.
Hey,
Because
John,
what I want to...
before we dive into the second recipe, there's some questions on the first one.
Oh,
So,
okay.
the Manny has a really good question, which is, how do we ensure that these opportunities that are getting viewed is only for your account, that you're not able to view for somebody else's account? So where is that restriction put in the recipe? Yeah.
Let's see whether this works. Yeah. So what I alluded to earlier was verified user access at runtime. This can be seen under recipe settings. So you can actually turn this on. And this will verify the user this will verify the user at runtime. So as a bot builder, right, I can be using a Salesforce connection that, like it's an integration user. It has a different set of permissions basically. But what this does is it's sort of like a just-in-time authentication, and that's what you see over here. So I've already established my verified user access here. So I'm connected with these set of credentials, which means that the information that these actions do, searching for the opportunities, getting details of a specific user, it's going to be done not as the bot, not as the connection credentials here, but rather the user that authenticates at runtime. In this case, this is me.
So John, just to clarify, like you build the recipe with certain credentials, like with Salesforce, right? But if I were to interact with this bot, and when I say, hey, list opportunities, it will prompt me to provide my Salesforce credentials and only fetch information that I have access to.
That's correct. I think I can enable it really quickly. So I'll just delete this. So yeah, as a security feature, we can actually delete any users who've authenticated themselves. You can just quickly delete the personal connection. So I'm gonna enable it right here, and then we'll see. Let's see if we can see it in action. Okay. So once again, just to resume, I ideally want to choose the second recipe from the pick list over here, but again, the recipe doesn't exist yet. So I'm gonna open a new tab and create the second recipe really quickly. And once again, I am trying to replicate this over here. So this is the first recipe, view all ops, and now I'm doing the second recipe, select opportunity. Once again, right, it's to reenact this scenario where the user tries to view a single opportunity, and then Workbot prompts the user like, okay, which one do you want to see? Right. So now I'm gonna quickly call it select opportunity. So I'm gonna save it and stop here and go back to the first one. Quickly do a schema refresh to make sure that now the select op is here. Oh, let's call it something else. Okay, select opportunity. So that should be pointing to this one right now. And I won't be passing any additional parameters. So let's see whether this works. Okay, so you remember that we called it view opportunities demo. So here it is. So let's see and let's run it. Okay, so money was it? So this is where the user who's invoking this recipe authenticates themselves. So here they'll be asked to authenticate themselves, and once the authentication's done, Okay, successfully connected. Connection successful. I'm connected as myself, and then the information from Salesforce is fetched on my behalf. I hope you saw that, but yeah, this is basically what happens. This is the verified user access at runtime I was talking about.
Yeah,
Okay,
thanks, John. And
cool.
John, the Manny has a follow-up question, which
Mhm.
is this only available for Salesforce, or is it available? What applications is this runtime verification available for?
That's an excellent question. It's available for applications uh, that support OAuth 2. So in this case, Salesforce is like we support OAuth 2 on Salesforce, and so it is therefore compatible with verified user access at runtime. So yeah,
Okay.
cool.
And okay, quick follow-up questions from Pushkar, just on the same, like all the interactions that we have seen so far, they're primarily like button driven, like input, the user interacts with a button, a pick list, right?
Mhm.
How does Workbot support natural language, like make it more conversational? Like, for example, I can just type in list my opportunities, and the same I can get the same form that you're showing right now that's displayed on your screen. Is that something we support?
We are in the process of building that up. So what we do support right now is the ability to connect conversational bots from Dialogflow from Amazon Lex. Uh, but that's a fairly high barrier to entry. You would probably need a team dedicated to building out the conversations and stuff like that. So that's definitely something that we will be looking to support in future. Uh, right now, how you invoke bots from Microsoft Teams is using the fixed command names. Yeah.
So John, if I understood that right, like there's no built-in NLP engine with Workbot, but if customers wanted to use something like Lex or Dialogflow, they could put that into the recipe, have some training data, and build out that experience. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So what the NLP layer does, like whatever you choose, right, be it Dialogflow or Lex, Amazon Lex, for example. So what happens is Amazon Lex and Teams will, so Amazon Lex or Dialogflow, we will manage the traffic where whatever you say to Teams, will forward it to your connected Dialogflow bot, and from there you will ping pong until your bot resolves itself to an intent, right? And once that intent is confirmed, that points to a specific recipe in Workbot. And from then on, the Workato platform will then take over and execute the corresponding recipe. So it's a bit hard to visualize, but basically what happens is you say stuff to the bot, and then the bot will try to figure out what you're trying to achieve, and then call the correct recipe in a
Right.
nutshell. Mhm.
Okay. And some of your questions, like we're looking at Salesforce, but can this similar kind of interaction or workflow be built out for other CRM application or other applications, like let's say ServiceNow, if you were to list all the incidents, or Jira, all the tickets, or even if you have some internal applications that you have built. So the answer is yes, like as long as those applications provide APIs to access data and get access data, and then you can use the workbot recipes that Jan just demoed in a very similar way and build this experience regardless of what application is in the backend. John, that's correct?
Exactly. So what I'm showing here is more of like the mechanics of Workbot, right? In this scenario, I'm talking about I'm an account executive looking at opportunities, but it could be an IT manager looking at open tickets, for example, and those can come from Jira, those can come from ServiceNow, GitHub, whatever application or whatever stack your organization's using. And instead of opportunities, you can be displaying tickets, right? Ticket information,
Yeah.
summary, description, priority, who's the assignee, and you can even act on it. So it's not just about viewing the information, it's about acting on the information. So it's important for you to design bot messages that give the user enough context to make a decision, right? Because your bot is only as useful as the way you design the interface. And yeah, so like if you're talking about tickets, you can escalate tickets, you can add information into tickets, you can close tickets, you can open tickets. The list goes on. The goal of this session is to show you guys the art of the possible, right? Everything is possible on Workbot. You just have to think about your use case and you can customize Workbot the way you need it to. Mhm.